نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. أما بعد, we continue with some of the Hadith and Sahih Imam Bukhari rahimahullah from the book of Al-Ilm, Kitab Al-Ilm, Kitab Al-Ilm, the chapter of the knowledge. And last time we talked about the importance of knowledge, and the knowledge is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, what the companions of the anhum said. And this is the most valuable thing that a person would seek in his life, and that is to seek the knowledge of the deen of Islam and many other different things. And it's very important that we get to learn the importance of it, and the ethic is to seek it, because many of the ilm a person can be deprived from it because he or she would lack the manners and the etiquettes to seek it. So, and this is in anything. If a person wants to seek something, he should learn the etiquettes and the manners to seek whatever he is seeking. And if they don't get these proper manners, they won't reach their goals properly, and they won't attain the perfect means that they are trying to seek. Same thing, of course, with regards to the most valuable thing, the deen of Islam. So the same thing when a person wants to seek the best of the rewards in the salah, we have to observe the best manners in the salah. And that is by following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And people's rewards in salah varies according to how much they follow the Prophet ﷺ and how much manners they have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their khushu' and so on. And the same thing with matters of ilm, with matters of knowledge. And that's why the ulama, they always start with any one that wants to seek knowledge, they would make sure first that they study adab, or the manners of seeking knowledge. And whether these manners to deal with oneself, or to deal with those who are in the same level as him, students for example, or what to do, or the manners with the person of knowledge, the teacher, how to learn and how to interact and so on, and manners for the teachers also, how to teach and so on, because of the importance of al-ilm, because of the importance of al-ilm. That's why it's something to be taught for the young ones and anyone that is seeking basically the knowledge of the deen of Islam. So we by the chapter of Bab al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Chapter al-ilm, the knowledge is before speech and actions. Before speech and action comes before speech and actions. Knowledge comes first. And again, the subject of al-ilm is the subject of al-wahy, revelation. And since people are in need of it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reveal in His revelation what people are in need of, and they won't be able to get it on their own. So that's why they need to know before they act. So if they want to get themselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they should not depend on their desires or the way they were brought or whatever there is. This is the same fitna, or the same mistakes that all human beings fall in, whether they are disbelievers or believers. They follow the ways of the forefathers, or they follow their desires, and they think that they are on something. But it's important for the Muslim to learn before speech and action, before saying anything. Of course, the matters of the deen and anything basically. A person should learn before speech and actions, because speech and actions are part of the deen of Islam. As we heard before, that Iman is qawl wa amal. Al-qawl wal-amal, right? Speech and action. Iman is speech and action. And the speech of al-Iman is the speech of the heart and the speech of the tongue. The speech of the heart is the beliefs, 6 pillars of al-Iman and so on. So before that, of course, we have to have the knowledge. We have to know what to believe in. And the speech of the tongue, we need to have the knowledge of what is good things for a person to say, and what are the evil things not to say. And different acts done by the different parts of the body, we need to know what are these deeds and how to do it according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. what other things are forbidden for us so that we stay away from it, and the deeds done by the heart also to know how to do them and how to stay away from the evil deeds done by the heart. All of this is according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So he says, باب العلم قبل القول والعمل. لقول الله تعالى, because of the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Know, فَاعْلَمْ, know that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah. So the ilm came first. Have the knowledge of لا إله إلا الله, then استغفر لذنبك. فبدأ بالعلم. Imam Bukhari رحمه الله يقول فبدأ بالعلم. He started with العلم. يقول, and he says, وأن العلماء هم ورثة الأنبياء. That the ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. وَرَّثُوا الْعِلْمَ مَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذَ بِحَظٍ وَافِرٍ وَمَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَطْلُبُ بِهِ عِلْمًا سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. He mentions the hadith here in the title. We're not into the hadith that is musnada or with the chain of narrations. Because there's two types of hadith mentioned in the book of Sahih Bukhari. A hadith mentioned in its titles without sanad, without chain of narrations. This is called mu'allaqat, right? Meaning, it's the Bukhari won't mention his Sheikh, won't mention the chain of narrations. Normally, any hadith like this, ulama would put it under the category of weak, because where is the chain of narration? Who he narrated this hadith from, right? So anybody that would say a hadith like this without the chain of narration, it's considered to be weak, or if he doesn't mention his Sheikh, he mentions someone higher than the one that he took the hadith from. So this is in the titles of Imam al-Bukhari. But al-Mu'allaqat of Imam al-Bukhari, the hadith that are mentioned in the titles of the books of Imam al-Bukhari, they're all authentic. And one of, or even more of the ulama, they follow these hadith to authenticate it. One of which Imam Ibn Hajar, rahimahullah, he has a book called it At-Taghliq, which means the book is about these hadith only. He would get all these hadith in Sahih Imam Bukhari, and he would prove that all of them are authentic, right? But they might not be a hadith of al-Bukhari. So if somebody take this hadith from the title, and he says, Imam Bukhari in his book, he said such and such, people might think that this hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. No, this is just from the title. If you say that this hadith was narrated by al-Bukhari, reported by al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, that means it has to be from the hadith al-Musnada, the hadith in the chapter that says so and so said from so and so and so on, the one that has the chain of narrations. This is Sahih Bukhari. The titles is what he's basically saying, the benefits and the rulings and the great benefits that you can learn from that. And he will mention verses, a hadith, right? But this is not from Sahih al-Bukhari. The Sahih is al-Musnad, is the one that has the chain of narration. But this is, of course, it's a famous, very authentic hadith, that al-ulama hum warathatul anbiya. Ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. And we talked about that before. Inherited. Every word is meant to be chosen like this, right? So when a person inherits something, what does that mean? He takes everything that that person passed away, for example, so people would take what he possessed, wealth, even clothes, right? People take everything. So when it comes to knowledge, it's passed from the prophets to the people of knowledge. So they are the inheritors of the prophets. And that's why they have the highest level after the messengers, right away, is the level of the ulama. Comes before even the level of the shuhada, the level of the martyrs. And this is the level where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, أولئك الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. Mentioned all the righteous ones. Those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed His favor upon. Those that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every time we recite Surah Al-Fatiha, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, to guide us to the path of those who you bestowed your favor upon. Who are those people? The prophets and as-siddiqeen, the truthful ones. Among the truthful ones are the ulama. And then the level after that was shuhada, and the martyrs, and the last level which is as-salihin, the righteous ones. So these are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for them to be saved. So the ulama are in the level right after the level of the prophets. So this is such a level that a Muslim definitely would want to be among. And also it makes us love these people because they are the inheritors of the prophets. But again, who are the ulama? The ulama, those who have the knowledge, they spend their life in seeking this knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. They act according to this knowledge, not just having some information, but they act according to it. And this is also one of the hadith that gives you the criteria to know who is the alim. Because the alim is the inheritor of the Prophet. So when you see the alim, when you hear the alim, right, he reminds you of the prophets. Because he narrates, he conveys what they left. He does not bring things from his own, because the religion is completed. So the alim is basically telling or teaches the people what the prophets left, which is the wahy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, وَالرَّثُ الْعِلْمِ. The prophets, they inherited al-ilm, the knowledge. No wealth, nothing, it's just the knowledge. مَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذَ بِحَظٍ وَافِقٍ. Whoever takes this knowledge that the prophets inherited, he had taken it with حظ وافر, meaning like nasib kamil, with the full share. He took the full share of what is good if you take this knowledge. That's why the knowledge has to be the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. This is what the Prophet ﷺ brought. But some of the knowledge can be not directly Quran and Sunnah, but it helps you to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. It's still from the knowledge. The knowledge of the language of the Quran and the Sunnah. To learn Arabic, for example, right? The language, because you want to learn the Quran and the Sunnah, then this is definitely in the path of seeking knowledge. The knowledge of Mustalah al-Hadith, the knowledge of the science of the Hadith, right? It's to learn how the Hadith is authentic and why it's not authentic, and the different rulings and sciences. This is all to help, right, in the path of knowledge. So this is part of knowledge. And there is the knowledge that is directly related to the Quran and the Sunnah, the tafsir of the Quran, right? The tafsir of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and the subjects of the Quran and the Sunnah, Aqidah and Fiqh, and all of these subjects are the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So whoever takes this knowledge, take the perfect share of the most valuable thing on the face of earth. The hearts of the believers, when they hear that, this is more valuable to them than this world and whatever it contains. وَمَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَطْلُبُ عِلْمًا. Whoever takes a path, seeking knowledge through this path, سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. Allah will make it easy for him, the path to Jannah. So if the person really has the sincerity that he wants to enter Jannah, this is how the matter is being explained to us, so easy. Take the path of knowledge, be always in the path of knowledge, seeking the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah will make your path to Jannah easy. That means if a person doesn't take that path, his path to Jannah will be very difficult. Right? Because if it's not knowledge, it's ignorance. And ignorance does not take the person to Jannah. So Jannah is through the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. وَقَالَ جَلَّ ذِكْرُهُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Innama, again, when we hear it, means it gives the meaning of exclusiveness. That indeed, verily, no doubt, those who fear Allah are those who, from among His slaves, are the ulama. And the sentence is made in such a way that they are the only ones. The only ones that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ulama. But somebody would say, but as we mentioned yesterday, someone embraced Islam today, and he cannot excel himself to the highest level if he dies the same day. Of course he can, with according to how much he has in his heart with his submission and whatever means of knowledge that he has. If he applies that, he reaches the highest level, of course. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. But when a person lives his life, the more you learn, the more the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in your heart. Because you get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the fear with knowledge, which is a beautiful feeling. It's not something that is bad, it's a beautiful feeling. To fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with knowledge gives the tranquility and the peace and so on. وَقَالَ وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا, which means it's referring to the amthal, or to the parables that are mentioned in the Quran. Only those who have the knowledge, they will be able to comprehend it and understand it. Because it needs thinking, needs for a person to be able to see or to see these parables. And that's why from the early generations of Islam, when one would cry and would say that if he didn't understand something in the Quran, he would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ, that only those who have the knowledge would comprehend it. So he would cry about his situation because he's not able to understand it from the first instance. وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the disbelievers in the Day of Judgment, they would say, if we would have heard or have the proper understanding, we would not be among the people of the hellfire. That's what they say. وَقَالَ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي, are they equal? Those who know and those who do not know? And the question is said in such a way that the answer is very obvious. The answer is they're not equal. So those who know and those who do not know, they're not equal. Is this discrimination, for example? This is not because of the color of their skin or because of something that they're created with. It's because of their actions. They were patient in seeking the knowledge, and they did that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so they are not the same as those who do not know. Meaning, of course, when it comes to the rewards and so on. And as a result of that, their ibadah even supposed to be, they're supposed to be the best of the ibadah, not that they will be less ibadah than others, because they are the inheritors of the Prophet. And the ayah itself says, أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ أَنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ سَاجِدًا وَقَائِمًا يَحْذَرُ الْآخِرَةَ وَيَرْجُو رَحْمَةَ رَبِّهِ قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The ayah just before that is about those who would stand at night and make salah and reciting the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then it says, do those who know are equal to those who do not know? That means the alim, the person that knows, he will be someone that his actions will be accordingly. Right? So again, it's not just a bunch of knowledge, it's the action that the person would apply. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. Prophet ﷺ said, and this hadith in Sahih Bukhari, but now it's not there yet, it will come later. Whoever Allah wants good for him, خيرا يفقهه في الدين, comes from the word al-fiqh. He will make him comprehend the religion. Whoever Allah wants good for him, He would make him comprehend the religion. And this hadith will come in the chapter of Bab al-Fahmi fil ilm, the chapter of understanding and knowledge. And usually, once the ulama they mention this hadith, they always say that mafhum al-mukhalafa, by the opposite of this hadith, the opposite is true. Which means you said, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for him, He will make him comprehend his religion. So make it the opposite meaning. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want good for someone, He won't make him comprehend the religion. Right? So again, it's not about the mental capacity or the intellectual abilities for a person to learn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is the most just. And a simple person doesn't have knowledge, but with strong iman, and he's doing the best he can be in the highest level, again according to what's present in his heart and his actions and so on. يقول then Imam Bukhari وإنما العلم بالتعلم. This is also part of the hadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. وإنما العلم بالتعلم. العلم is, see how they are very close. العلم بالتعلم. Two words. العلم, and the other word is التعلم. العلم is by, to have knowledge is by seeking knowledge. They have to do something, right? It does not get thrown into the heart of the person. It's not magic, it's not dreams, it's not some form of miraculous thing that happens to the person. None of that. It's by at-ta'allum. The person has to seek knowledge. They have to be patient to seek that. The religion of Islam, again, is completed. Right? False ways of life, they would seek some miraculous things for them to have strong iman in whatever faults that they are following, to deceive their people, right? They look in the skies and they see the clouds making the shape of something, right? And they say, see, mashallah, this is something amazing, right? And things of that nature. Or they saw in their dream stories that has no authenticity to it whatsoever, made up stories of showing how miraculous things are. People, the amazing thing is some people, they believe these things. But the the bullet was coming flying in his face, but then he said something and it stopped on the way. This can happen to the prophets, to the righteous people, and karamat is a fact in our deen. Miracles can happen to righteous people, but nobody would come out and speak about his miracles that happened in his life. And the people of knowledge, the people of righteousness, they don't seek that in their life. They seek to be steadfast on the deen of Islam. So, as they say, al-istiqamatu khayru min alfi karam. Al-istiqamah, to be steadfast, it's better than 100 miracles or 1,000 miracles. To be steadfast, right? And the people they seek, once he becomes steadfast, he wants his life to be, very good, and wealth and health and everything. Right? And I know the believers, they seek the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they seek goodness of this life and in hereafter, yes. But the istiqamah is not conditioned. Steadfastness is not conditioned to some goodness in this life, it's unconditioned. And then, so it's a very important sentence, al-ilmu bil-ta'allum. Knowledge is by seeking it, and that needs patience. We get excited to seek knowledge, and then once you start the path of knowledge, what would carry you throughout the path is the iman and the sabr, patience, because you won't find it always exciting, right? To be patiently sitting for hours to learn and to read and to act according to what you learn. So it needs this patience, and that's why a person needs to constantly make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him or for her to gain the knowledge. وقال أبو ذر, and Abu Dharr رضي الله عنه, he said, لو وضعتم الصمصامة على هذه وأشار إلى قفاه ثم ظننت أني أنفذ كلمة سمعتها من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أو أنفذ كلمة سمعتها من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل أن تجيزوا علي لأنفذتها. Which means that he was saying to see the responsibility of the knowledge. Abu Dharr is one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, if you put a samsama, samsama is the tip of the sword that is very strong and never bent. Not a toy sword that the tip of it bends. No, the real one, the tip of it, this is what it kills. This is what goes through the skin, right? So he said, if you put the tip of the sword on this, and he pointed at the back of his head, and then I would think that وَثُمَّ ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي أَنْفُذُ كَلِمَةً سَمِعْتُهَا مِنَ النَّبِيِّ صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل أن تجيزوا علي لأنفذتها. If it's like that, means that for him to be killed is very close. Instantly, this will go through. So he says, if it's the tip of the sword is on the back of my head, and I have the ability to get out a word that I heard from the Prophet ﷺ, I would get it out. Right? That means this is the responsibility of carrying the knowledge. Someone in that position, he's thinking about all kinds of things, right? Or to that extent, a person would convey the message even if he is in such a situation. وقال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما, he said in the explanation of the verse in Surah Al-Imran, ولكن كونوا ربانيين, but be ربانيين. ربانيين comes from رب. Be ربانيين. If they literally translate it, they would translate it as godly people, right? This is what they would literally translate it. What's Rabbaniyin means? The people of the Rabb, the people of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. That means, he says, Hulama, Fuqaha. They are forbearing people. They are Fuqaha. They are people of knowledge and understanding. ويقال الرباني, the Rabbani, the one that is godly. It's correct to say that, but the word have maybe some different connotations to it. Is the one الذي يربي الناس بصغار العلم قبل كباره. Is the one that raises the people, right, with knowledge, with the small parts of knowledge before the major parts of the knowledge. Meaning the principles, the foundations, the things that they can easily comprehend. He would raise them like this before they would get into the difficult parts. So this is basically, the way, of course, to learn anything is to start with what is easy, and you go on to what is easy because you already took the foundations. But it needs for a person to take these step by step. So the same thing when a person is seeking the knowledge of the deen of Islam, you start with what is obligatory on every Muslim to learn. That is basically matters of belief, how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with salah and so on. So this is the end of the chapter. There's no hadith mentioned here from the chain of narrations, meaning the Sahih itself. In the next chapter he says, باب ما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتخولهم بالموعظة والعلم كي لا ينفروا. Chapter, what the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to يتخولهم بالموعظة. Al-maw'idha means preaching or admonishing, right? He used to do that once in a while. So that, and al-ilm, and knowledge, so that they don't get bored or turned away. So he would recognize the human nature that sometimes a person can't take it anymore because it's too long, right? So he would give them a break, basically, from matters of knowledge. But mainly al-maw'idha first, because al-maw'idha is supposed to be something that moves the hearts, things that touches the hearts, reminders, right? So he would not remind them all the time, so that they don't get bored, right? And the effect of the reminder would still be strong in their hearts. They would come to it, they want to seek it, because that's the most benefiting time for the reminder, is when the person wants it. So if it's done every day, 5 times a day, so people don't want it anymore, right? But if it's something, as it's mentioned, some of the hadith, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhuma, he would come out to the people every Tuesday, mentioned every Thursday. They wanted more. So he said this hadith, as it will come, that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do this to us, so that they don't feel bored. But this is different than someone seeking the knowledge, right? If someone seeking knowledge, this can be done every day, all day, depends on how the ability of the person. People have to be patiently doing this. And that's why there's also other incidences where the Prophet ﷺ would speak to the people the whole day. The whole day, sometimes he would speak to the people, teaching them. And they would learn from the actions and the speech and so on of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is when it comes to realizing the nature of those who are present, right? And according to one's zeal of seeking this knowledge, the one teaching should be accordingly. Then he says, now this is hadith from Sahih Bukhari. حدثنا محمد بن يوسف. What's حدثنا again means when you hear حدثنا? Told us, narrated, right, from hadith. But حدثنا means the one that's saying this, which is Imam Bukhari, that means he heard it directly from the one that he narrates the hadith from, and there was present, more people were present. Or some of the narrators of the hadith, they would use the same word, and it means they're just either alone or in the presence of others. But some are very specific in these different types of using the words. So, حدثنا Muhammad ibn Yusuf. I don't want to get into the science of hadith, but just the reason I'm saying this, although this is maybe something elaborate that comes later on, but just for us to appreciate so much the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, to know how much the ulama, they spend their effort and so on to preserve the deen of Allah. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved this deen by these people, right? And how important it is to know the knowledge, of course, of matters of hadith. When people studying the books, Muhammad ibn Yusuf, there are 2 Muhammad ibn Yusuf, for example, right? That Imam Bukhari would narrate from. One is called Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firyabi, and one Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Baykandi, right? 2 with different last names, right? So when people would read Muhammad ibn Yusuf, is it this or that? And they're both a'imma, the shuyukh of Imam Bukhari, right? Then they would say, this is Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firyabi. Why? Because if al-Bukhari would say Muhammad ibn Yusuf and that's it, he refers to al-Firyabi. So that's why it shows the importance of knowing the author of the book, his way, right? And so that you would be able to understand what he means by things. So he refers to that one person, Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firyabi, one of the a'imma of this deen. قال أخبرنا سفيان. أخبرنا is different than حدثنا. So Muhammad ibn Yusuf, he said أخبرنا. What's أخبرنا? We said it last time. أخبرنا means informed us. What's the difference between informed us and narrated to us? Informed us meaning?
Direct.
No, not directly. That means it might be that someone else was saying it, right, and he's approving of it, right? Someone else was reciting it and he's approving of it. Anyway, who's the one that informed them? Sufyan. Sufyan, and that's it. He didn't say Sufyan who. Muhammad ibn Yusuf, right? He narrates from both Sufyan al-Thawri and Sufyan al-Uyayna, right? So which Sufyan it is? If Bukhari would say Sufyan and that's it, he means Sufyan al-Thawri, right? One of the Imma of this deen. Sufyan al-Thawri, he is someone that he used to have, there was a madhab for Sufyan al-Thawri, right? Like madhab Abi Hanifa, madhab Imam Malik, right? But why only these four madhab that became very well known? Because the students of these madhab, they took care of it, they spread it, and they, conveyed the message of their mashayikh or their scholars in the best way, right? But the opinions of he was someone that is faqih in matters of fiqh, but his opinions, his students didn't take care of his knowledge to spread it and so on in matters of fiqh. But it's a well-known method, right? He had a method in matters of fiqh. So he was someone that is imam in this religion, one of the imam of this deen. And he has so many different great benefits, and it's very important to get to read his biography. If you have means to read the biography of Sufyan al-Thawri, it's such a very benefiting one, right? And how he would refuse to be in the position of a qadi or a judge because of the responsibility of it. And when they refuse such positions, because they know that other people can do the same job, right? But they don't want to have that position, even if it's fame and wealth and so on, and to the extent of which that he would subject himself to prison because he's refusing the position and flee away from one place to the other so that the Khalifa doesn't get a hold of him and so on. And one of the famous quotes of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, استطعت ألا تحك رأسك إلا بأثر فافعل. If you're capable of making sure that you even scratch your head by a tradition, by an evidence, then do so. What that means how adherent they were to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If you're even scratching your head, if you get to know how the Prophet ﷺ did that, then do it. Get to know this knowledge and do it. This is just a way, an expression to show the exaggeration in following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. He himself, he said, there's no hadith, I get to know it unless I applied it, unless I acted according to it. Right? And of course, when you read in their biography, how many thousands and thousands of hadith that they get to know. So every hadith, they would make sure that they are applying this hadith. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved these hadith by these ai*imma, by these ulama. These are the ulama, right? So they were eager so much to get to know the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith, and to preserve it, and to convey it, to teach it to others, doing the best deeds, and not just be satisfied with this or living double life. They were applying the way the Prophet ﷺ. And many things. عن الأعمش. He reported this from Al-A'mash, another imam of this knowledge. Sulaiman ibn Mahran, right? Al-A'mash. This is his laqab or his last name, Al-A'mash, because he had some in his eye. He cannot see with one eye, right? It was very weak, right, in one eye. So this is what they called him, Al-A'mash, right? عن أبي وائل. أبي وائل is Sheikh ibn Salam. Al-A'mash, just by mentioning one of the things that, or one incident to see how these people were so sincere towards others, he was going to the masjid with someone else that doesn't see well, right? And he was, who was it? Anyway, one of the great ai*imma of the Salaf, right? And he could not see also, he could not see with one eye totally. So he told them, why don't we go through this route to the masjid? He said, I'm worried because there are some young children there. They might say things like biting us. Because they would say, a one-eyed man is leading one with weak eye. What is this? They would make fun of us. So he said, well, if they do, we get rewards. Right? So he said, Subhanallah, isn't it better that they are safe from the sins and we safe from the backbiting? So he was concerned so that he does not make people fall into backbiting him. Right? Not that, oh, let's get some rewards from them. They backbite us, right? No, he cares about them. He doesn't want them to fall into the sin. That's why it's when you protect yourself from any forms of shubha or doubtful matters that people might see. Sometimes it's inevitable. You can't protect yourself 100%. But to do that is part of it, is that because you're concerned about them, so that they don't backbite you, so that they don't fall into the sin. You're not just concerned about yourself, you're also concerned about these Muslims, those who would say something negative about you. But if you're following the deen, then don't worry about anything else. If people backbite you or not backbite you, it doesn't matter. You're obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. So, anyway, so Sufyan al-Thawri, he reported from Al-A'mash, and Abi Wa'il Shaqiq ibn Salama. Shaqiq ibn Salama also one of the Imam of the Zin. Each one of them, see the chain narration sometimes we recite as if it's just the normal people. No, these are big ulama. And Shaqiq ibn Salama, someone said about him, for example, I've never heard him say a bad word to an animal or to a human being. ما رأيته سب بهيمة ولا إنسانا أو كما قال. That he didn't see him curse or say a bad word to any animal or human being. Someone that well known to have his tongue being protected from saying anything that is evil, anything that is bad. All of this is the effect of the Sunnah. This is the effect of carrying the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and carrying this knowledge as if they are seeing the Prophet ﷺ and imitating what he says and his teachings and so on. Not just people that convey the message and that's it. That's why people follow them in their speech and their actions. Ali ibn Mas'ud, he narrated this from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was one of the ulama of the Sahaba. He was one of the scholars of the Sahaba. And the famous thing is the Abadilah. The plural of Abdullah and Abdullah, they say Abadilah. There was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Amr, ibn al-As, right? And Abdullah ibn Abbas. These were among the scholars of the Sahaba. And they gained so much knowledge and they were teaching among those who would teach the people. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was in Kufa, for example, right? He would teach the people there. And he has many students and so on. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتخولنا بالموعظة في الأيام كراهة السآمة عليه. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يتخولنا, which means he would seek the times that we are very awake and active and so on, and he would teach us in this time. But he mentioned al-maw'idha. He would wait for the moment that we are ready and we're active, not lazy, not sleepy, not thinking about other things, and he would take advantage of these times to give us the reminders, right? And that shows the importance of those who are teaching others to make sure that they are aware of the ways of those who are teaching them. So they would use the time effectively, what to give them at that time, because they're awake at this time. If they're, for example, not feeling very active, then they would give them something else and so on. So the maw'idha, or the reminder that needs the full attention and the hearts to be affected, the Prophet ﷺ would do it once in a while. That he would do that to them. Why? كَرَاهَةَ السَّآمَةِ عَلَيْهِ, out of the fear that we would get bored. So the human beings. So we have to recognize the nature of the human beings. And that's why it's not an evil thing for a person to get bored. This is a normal thing. But when a person is bored, does he commit sins because he's bored? That's a problem. Even in matters of deen, sometimes you find yourself wanting to do things. Wanting to do salah, reciting Quran, to do good deeds. And other times, even in the same day, you won't find that eagerness to do things. Like this is a normal thing, 100% normal. But when the person is in this downtime, basically, if it's correct to say that, does he commit sins? This is what the difference between those who are steadfast and those are others. Some people, they come to the masjid whenever they feel the urge to come. And they don't come when they don't feel it. Like this is something, no, it doesn't work this way. Obligations, we're supposed to perfect it. whether you feel or whether you don't feel. You force yourself. You can still walk and go and so on. But things that extra, right? Yes, this can be affected. And once you are in that level and you find that you have a word every day, every day you recite a juz of the Quran or less or whatever, and you find that you don't feel like having it, if it decreases a little bit, there's no harm. But at the same time, you would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make dua that Allah would bring you back to the same level of wanting to do things. So it would soon change, right? And realizing that this is the nature of the human being. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, sa'a wa sa'a, right? That 1 hour or 1 hour, right? You can't be on the same level the whole time, but it doesn't mean that 1 hour in obedience to Allah, 1 hour in sins, no. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, لِكُلِّ أَمْرٍ شَرَّةٍ وَلِكُلِّ شَرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ. For anything that is shirra, there is a peak, a person will get excited, wants to do many things. And for every matter there is fatra, it goes down. You find what's fatra? Futur is when you feel like you're fatigue, well, but that's physically, right? But it's emotionally, you don't feel like doing anything, right? Bored, you're not there, right? So then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ فَتْرَاتُهُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي فَقَدْ هُدِيَ. Whoever his downtime is according to my sunnah, he is guided. That means he's still steadfast. And this is where the time where the shaitan comes and sometimes we get the person to commit sins and so on. So the point is the Prophet ﷺ would teach them or would give them the reminders once in a while so that they don't get bored. The next hadith, he says, حدثنا محمد بن بشار قال حدثنا يحيى بن سعيد قال حدثنا شعبة. And each one of them again, great imam of this deen, يحيى بن سعيد الخطان and شعبة بن الحجاج, right? Imam al-Zuhri. Shu'bah is the Imam al-Zuhri, one of the A'imma also of this deen. قال حدثني أبو التياح عن أنس بن مالك. عن أنس بن مالك عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال يسروا ولا تعسروا وبشروا ولا تنفروا. Ordering the people. يسروا from taysir, make it easy for the people. ولا تعسروا, the opposite, do not make it difficult for them. وبشروا, Bashiru is the glad tidings. Give them the glad tidings, the good news. وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا, do not make them turn away, run away. Right? How would you do that? Would you change matters of the deen to make them fit their desires? No. You would use the deen, you would convey the message of the deen, but in such a way. So some people, they take these hadith, make it easy for the people as if you're the owner of the deen. So, oh, this is halal, it's okay. Right? Because you think it's going to be difficult for them. No, the real difficulty is when a person is away from the deen. But the way that you would convey it, the way that you would teach people what is easy and what is clear, and then you take them step by step, right? Again, a person embraces step today, or someone that was totally deviated and so on, and he repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today. So we tell him that this is haram, this is haram, this is haram, right? And we give him all the list of what is haram for him to do, right? This is it, it'll make him run away. He's not ready for that yet. Does that mean that you're concealing things in the religion? No. If he asks, we tell him. There's nothing, we cannot hide anything. If he asks, is this haram or not, if we have the knowledge, we say. But when you're in the subject or in the context of teaching, right, there are things to be taught first. So you cannot leave the salah and teach him, for example, that wearing gold for men is haram. Right? You teach him the salah first. But if he asks, right, then you tell him that this is haram for men to wear. But at the same time, you explain to him that it doesn't make you a disbeliever, right? It doesn't make you a non-Muslim, right? It would still, you're still a Muslim, right? And the most important thing is for the person to, it doesn't mean that you would undermine the sin, right? But at the same time, you put it in the proper perspective so that he does not think from this that if I don't take it off, for example, I become a disbeliever, so let me just go away now. Right? So things has to be done in that perspective. You're not compromising anything. You're not saying it's halal, it's okay. You cannot lie. You have to say the truth. It's haram, and this is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the most high, the most wise. And when you said La ilaha illallah, that means you submit yourself to the orders of Allah and definitely bring what is good for you. And you help him. You help him in which he would take it and so on. وَبَشِّرُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا, and give the good news and do not turn people away. And that's why the message of the Quran has both the bishara, the glad tidings, and the warning. So a person is warning, and not giving the glad tidings. If a person is steadfast and among the believers and so on, then it means the person might turn away. So you have to use both. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about Jannah, talked about hellfire. And some people, they just want to hear about Jannah only, but the good things only. Right? No, it's both. We have to have both because we live our life to be steadfast with both. The hope for the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This like the two wings of a bird. You cannot fly with one. So you need to have both. And our nafs, our being is like this. For you to be steadfast, you cannot do it by good things to be done only. You have to also have some fear that would take the person away from sins. So a person about to do a good deed, he needs to know the rewards of it, so that it gives him more eagerness to do it. If a person is about to do a sin, warning is a good thing, right? So we have to realize that at the moment of death, does the person need the warning more or the hope for the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The hope for the rewards from Allah, because the fear is like what, or the mu'idha do this, the mu'idha or the preaching or the reminders gives the hope and also have the warnings. The warnings is like, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah gave the example of it, like a whip to the heart. You get your heart whipped, right? So that it's steadfast on the straight path. And some people, the whip has a big effect. Like if it's physically happened, it can stay for a few minutes, or it can stay for an hour, right? And that's why if maybe you are reminded in the masjid or in Jumu'ah or whatever, and then you go out of the masjid and it's gone. The benefit of the reminder, which is different than matters of knowledge, is to give you that first push, right? So that you become steadfast and you continue. And you need definitely constantly the reminder so that it helps a person to be steadfast on the deen of Islam. So at the moment of death, the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the authentic hadith, whoever dies, you should die when you're having the good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a person should, the people used to remind one another at the moment of death of the good things that they did and so on. Any questions?
Allah Sheikh, I just like about أخبرنا.
No.
Like when I didn't came in the last lesson, but doesn't the Imam should like say that who told the Imam about the news? Like you said أخبرنا مثلا معاذ, but who told Mu'adh? Does he mention that also?
Oh yes, he narrates the whole hadith, but either he would say it himself, or there's a student or someone reading the hadith and the Imam is sitting and approving.
So when he says
he's reading his hadith.
So when he says أخبرنا, he's talking about the lesson of the one he heard from.
Right.
Okay.
Or he can say it himself, because again, they would use the words interchangeably. Sometimes they mean it this way, mean it the other way. باب من جعل لأهل العلم أياما معلومة. The chapter of who would give the people of knowledge special days or specific days for them. That means people are either people of knowledge or normal people. People of knowledge, أهل العلم, meaning they are busy with the ilm, all of their life is busy, they're busy with it. A full-time student, right, is different than someone that just wants to learn what is obligation for him to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to do. So the people of knowledge, they should of course be given more attention, matters of knowledge, because they are busy with seeking the knowledge at all times. So he says, حدثنا عثمان بن أبي شيبة قال حدثنا جرير عن منصور ابن المعتمر عن أبي وائل, again شقيق بن سلمة, قال كان عبد الله, meaning Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he used to يذكر الناس في كل خميس, he used to remind the people every Thursday. فقال له رجل, a man told him, يا أبا عبد الرحمن لوددت أنك ذكرتنا كل يوم. A man told him, oh Abu Abdul Rahman, that's the kunya, the nickname of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, I wish that you would remind us every day, because of what they heard. Imagine you're They're hearing it fresh from someone that saw the Prophet ﷺ and took directly from the Prophet ﷺ. So how would be the effect of such reminders? So one said, I wish that you would remind us every day. So he said to him, أَمَا إِنَّهُ يَمْنَعُنِي مِنْ ذَلِكَ أَنِّي أَكْرَهُ أَنْ أُمِلَّكُمْ. He said, what prevents me from doing that is I'm worried or having the fear that I would bore you. وَإِنِّي أَتَخَوَّلُكُمْ بِالْمَوْعِظَةِ. And I, أَتَخَوَّلُكُم, we talked about it, that I give you the maw'idah once in a while. Right? And the original meaning of it, أَتَعَهَدُكُم, that I make sure that I'm concerned and I will give you the maw'idah, but not every day, once in a while. كَمَا كَانَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم يَتَخَوَّلُنَا بِهَا. I do that the same way the Prophet ﷺ used to remind us once in a while. مَخَافَةَ السَّآمَةِ عَلَيْهِ, out of the fear that we will be bored. Right? But again, these types of things, it depends on how the person is in need of it. And it's, of course, when we look at the companions of anhum, their actions, their behavior, and so on, according to the way the Prophet ﷺ. So the reminder is something to keep them going. And that's why, for example, the khutbah of the Prophet ﷺ of Jumu'ah was something that is very short. And this is one of the difficult situations that we would find in the Muslim countries, for example, when people don't come except for Jumu'ah. Sahaba radiallahu anhum didn't come only for Jumu'ah. So they were getting the knowledge and they're getting the effect of their deeds and increasing their iman and so on. And the Jumu'ah is just the reminder for them that push them, and keep them steadfast, right? But when people, they only come for Jumu'ah, and this is the only time that they learn about everything in the deen of Islam, and they get reminders also, and everything. This is the only time that they receive any form of knowledge. And it's supposed to also do the action or the effect of the reminder. Right? So you have to teach in the Jumu'ah nowadays matters of belief, how to make wudu, how to make salah, what is halal, what is haram, zakah, and so on. Right? In which it wasn't. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that khutbah fil Jumu'ah is a dars. It's not a dars, it's not a lecture. Right? It's just a reminder for the people. So this is basically some of the things that we see that the deen of Islam is to be taken in its totality like that. Because if you miss something, that affects many things in one's life. Right? It's Salatul Jama'ah, it's meant to be this way because it affects the whole deen of the person. For people to get together, right? It makes it easy for people to learn the deen that way. When they come to the masajid. It makes the people get to know one another. It makes the people get to know who is rich and who is poor, and who is in need. Why there's problems in people finding ways to give zakah, for example. They don't find poor people. Because how would they know where's the poor people? It would might be still difficult, but if all Muslims, they come to the masajid, in whatever, each locality, they all gather in the masjid. If they go to work or they outside during the day, but at least Maghrib, Isha, Fajr, they're all together. They will get to know each other, right? So people will get to many benefits as a result of that, and so on. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. Let's take, we have some time, we'll take maybe 2 chapters. باب من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. We talked about that earlier, but now this is a chapter by itself. And you will see the way of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. Same hadith is repeated. But every benefit that can be extracted from the hadith, he will give it a chapter. So that the titles of the chapters are very important for a person to learn the etiquettes and the manners that he needs to convey. So the chapter of whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for, he would make him comprehend the deen. يفقهه في الدين. And this is basically, the chapter is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes he would make the chapter just the statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. Then he narrates the hadith. قال حدثنا سعيد بن عفير قال حدثنا ابن وهب عن يونس عن ابن شهاب. Ibn Shihab is also Imam al-Zuhri, right? That was mentioned before. قال حميد بن عبد الرحمن سمعت معاوية. I heard معاوية بن أبي سفيان, one of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he was one of those who would write the Quran, scribers of the Quran, كتبت الوحي, and he became Khalifa after Ali radiallahu anhu, and after and Al-Hasan, as we know the situation. سمعت معاوية, he said he heard Muawiyah رضي الله عنه خطيبا, giving خطبة. يقول سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم says, من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for, He would make him comprehend the religion. And again we said this is something that always the ulama they say, the opposite of that meaning is correct. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want good for, He would make him not able to comprehend the religion. So he would follow his desires, follow his deviations and so on. And that shows the importance of the understanding of the deen, as it will come in the next chapter. باب الفهم في الدين, the proper understanding. Why is it important to understand right? We'll leave it to the next chapter inshallah ta'ala. وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسِمٌ وَاللَّهُ يُعْطِي. The Prophet ﷺ said, I am nothing but qasim. Qasim means someone that would distribute something, give portions of things. I distribute among you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that gives. What does that mean? That the Prophet ﷺ is the one who would distribute to the people what he had been conveyed to. He is distributing the revelation. He's conveying the revelation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that would really give the people the proper understanding, the proper effect of what is being said to them. So that means the job of the Prophet ﷺ is what? Is to change the hearts of the people? No. It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the one that changes the hearts of the people. Is it the job of the Prophet ﷺ to make the people steadfast? No. He's only conveying the message. يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك وإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته. O Messenger of Allah, بلغ, convey the message. Right? With the best way, and he's a prophet of Allah and so on. But the one that brings the effect in the hearts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إنما أنا قاسم والله يعطي. I am nothing but the one that would distribute, convey the message. And the same thing, since we are ordered to follow the Prophet ﷺ, our job, if we learn something, is to convey it in the best way, right? In the proper way, and so on. And that's it. People change their hearts, or they don't, their hearts are not changed. This is not in our capacity. And that's why the measure of the success of someone that is conveying the message is not by how many followers he has, or how many people are affected by his message, right? Because the one that changes the hearts is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If you obey most of the people on the earth, they would lead you astray. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in it, وَالنَّبِيُّ يَأْتِ وَلَيْسَ مَعَهُ أَحَدٌ. In the day of judgment, a prophet will come and he has known even one follower, not even one. And a prophet revealed to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he conveys the message, and not even one follower. Does that mean that this prophet failed? It's part of the belief, matters of aqidah, that no prophet failed whatsoever. They were all successful. They did their job according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them. So the success is not measured by how many people are followers. The success is by how much you are steadfast in fulfilling this job, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides. So that's why it makes the Muslim focus on the truth, not focus on people. People sometimes they take the truth based on who is saying the truth, or how the truth is being presented to them. Right? Of course the truth should be presented, and the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ مِنْكُمْ مُنَفِّرِينَ. Some of you are cause people to run away from the deen. Although you might say all the truth, but you say the wrong way. Right? With harshness, not realizing the ways of people and what is their level, and not starting with what is clear to them. Many reasons can happen, but the person is speaking the truth. So he has to know also how to convey the truth. But the point is, which is very clear, is that it's not according to what people might think. People would say someone, or see someone, or hear someone speaking, they would say he's mashallah, he's a great scholar, based on what you said then, based on the eloquent speech that he gives, and how he can basically capture the hearts of the people, right? This is not the way to know who is right and who is wrong. What is right is, as they say in the Arabic language, qadim, means it's old, not old in a negative way. The truth is there, right? The truth is not something that would happen today. It's there, right? So you need to, if a person is conveying the truth, you need to make sure that this is the truth. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. This is what the Prophet said, right? So this is the truth that we need to seek. And this is the truth that we need to follow. Not someone that would affect the hearts of the people and then they would follow him and they would consider him to be on the truth just because of the fact that he speaks good or his manners are good. Yeah, these are means, of course. But what if a person has the best manners, but has the most evil beliefs ever? This is valid to happen. So people will be deceived just because of his manners. And someone maybe doesn't have the good manners, but he has the proper knowledge. This is deficiency in him, of course. That means his ilm is not proper. But don't deprive yourself from the ilm just because of his manners. Because the ilm or the knowledge is something that is there and it's saved for us. So, وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسِمٌ وَاللَّهُ يُعْطِي. Very important benefit. Prophet is the one that would distribute this knowledge, convey this knowledge, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that gives the understanding. That's why we need to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for seeking guidance and for to comprehend the knowledge and so on. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَن تَزَالَ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةُ قَائِمَةً عَلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ مَنْ خَالَفَهُمْ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ. وَلَن تَزَالَ. وَلَن means something that in the future, not just in the past or in the immediate time. لَن تَزَالَ, it gives the continuity that this ummah would continue to be قائمة, steadfast or standing على أمر الله. Like when they say stand up for your rights, right? What stand up meaning? You're not literally necessarily standing up, but this is what the sentence means. That this ummah will continue to be standing up for the orders of Allah, meaning holding to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يضرهم من خالفهم. They won't be harmed by those who differ against them or different than them or oppose them. حتى يأتي أمر الله, till the order of Allah comes. And this is in this narration, and it means the truth will be present in this ummah. Nobody will be able to take the truth from this ummah. And if there's other narrations where it says, give more explicit meaning, وَلَا تَزَالْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي. There will be always a group of my ummah on the truth. That means the truth would not go away from this ummah. If many people might be deviated, if many people would turn away, but the truth is still there. And there will always be a group of people, right, that would hold fast to the truth. That means the truth is there for those who wants to seek it. That's a glad tidings. This is, things for people to rejoice, basically, which is unique to this ummah. If a person wants to be righteous, he can. He just go back to the Quran and the Sunnah, the way it was applied at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and he will be steadfast. Yes, and sometimes it's difficult because it's fitan, tribulations. There's not too many people of knowledge. So the person might slip away easily, right? That's why it's difficult times. It's valid for difficult times to be there. But the truth is there, but it makes your way more difficult. So what do you do in these times? Is that you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truthfully, sincerely, that you want to follow the truth. And you take the proper means, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you. So we have to, in these times of fitan, we understand that it's not easy. So you turn sincerely, truthfully to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once you get to know something from the deen of Islam, from the way the Prophet ﷺ, hold very strong to it and apply it in your life. Right? And this is the barakah or the blessings of being guided to something else. And so on. But if we leave actions, then we would not benefit from the ilm. Right? And if people are deviated after guidance, as the Prophet ﷺ said, they will be given arguments. They will be the best to argue. Right? Why? Because they left guidance and they're just basically choosing to stay away. So the truth will be always in this ummah, and this is great news from the Prophet ﷺ. Nations before, say for example, the people wants to follow the true teaching of Isa alayhi salam or Musa alayhi salam, they can't. There's no way for them to go back and see exactly how they lived their life. They won't be able to. It's been terminated, right? There's nothing there. So, but this ummah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved the deen. For those who wants to go back and see the truth, it will be saved for them. till the order of Allah comes, which is the Day of Judgment and so on. The last chapter tonight, inshallah ta'ala, باب الفهم في العلم. Chapter of understanding in the knowledge. So understanding in the knowledge and the importance of al-fahm. Fahm or understanding is such an important thing because you can get the information but you don't understand. And text alone can be understood by many different ways. So how to have the proper understanding? This is what is very important and people need to seek understanding. So let's first say the hadith. حدثنا علي بن عبد الله قال حدثنا سفيان قال لي ابن أبي نجيح عن مجاهد قال صحبت ابن عمر إلى المدينة فلم أسمعه يحدث عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا حديثا واحدا. He said I was with Ibn Umar to Al-Madinah traveling with him and I didn't hear him say something from the Prophet ﷺ except one hadith. He said we were by the Prophet ﷺ كنا عند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأتي بجمار. We were with the Prophet ﷺ and we were given, he was given jummar. Jummar is the inside, the pulp of the palm tree. Does that make sense? Right? The pulp of the palm tree and it's, the inside. So he said, فَقَالَ إِنَّ مِنَ الشَّجَرِ شَجَرَةً مَثَلُهَا كَمَثَلِ الْمُسْلِمِ. Prophet ﷺ said, there is a shajara, there's a tree, the example of it, the parable of it is like the Muslim. فأردت أن أقول, I wanted to say here النخلة, it is the nakhla, it is the palm tree. فإذا أنا أصغر القوم. And I wanted to say the nakhla, I wanted to say the palm tree, but I was the youngest among the people. فسكت. So I became quiet out of the shyness. And we read this hadith before. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم النخل. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, it's the nakhl, it's the palm tree. That is the point. Repeat the adhan. Can somebody, can we give him a microphone or something? It's going to be too late again. Maybe you should announce it. If somebody gives the adhan, he should make sure that people hear him, not the outside only. So back to the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said it's a nakhl. And the hadith we explained it before, but the point is the understanding, the proper understanding in the knowledge, and also the previous hadith, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for him, He will make him comprehend the religion. And in the explanation of the word يفقهه, like for example Ibn Hajar and others they say, is يفهمه, make him understand, make him comprehend the religion. So the knowledge can be there, but the fahm or the understanding is another level, and it's part of knowledge. So it's not enough just to seek some information, but it's important that we would have the proper understanding. That's why one verse in the Quran can mean more than many things, and hadith also can mean more than one thing. In the Quran, as Umar radiallahu anhu and others, they said hammal awjuh, which means it can give more than one meaning. And the people of innovations, the people of desires and innovations, they can follow the Quran to get whatever they want to get from the Quran, because the words are general and things can mean whatever, so they can get whatever meanings they want. And that's why Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, فَإِذَا جَدَلُوكُمْ بِالْقُرْآنِ فَجَادِلُوهُم بِالسُّنَّةِ. If they argue with you with the Quran, argue with them with the Sunnah. Right? Because the Sunnah explains the Quran. Right? So they both are revelations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet ﷺ did not receive the Quran and kept it as a text like this for generations to come later and discover it and to act according to it. The Prophet ﷺ explained it with his words, والسلام, and his action, right, and the things that he approved, والسلام. And Aisha radiallahu anha, she said about the Prophet ﷺ, كان خلقه القرآن, his manners was the Quran. And also, again, the ways of the companions of radiallahu anhum, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that praised them in the Quran and ordered us to follow their ways. So it's not an option, it's not something that you would get based on some thinking. This manhaj or this methodology of following the understanding of the early generations of Islam, it's not something that comes by thinking. And a great thinker came up with this idea. And this is the core of this religion. This is mandatory on every Muslim. This is something that is mentioned in the Quran. والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان. The foremost of the Muhajirin and the Ansar, people from Mecca, people from Medina, والذين اتبعوهم, and those who followed them بإحسان, with goodness, رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. So this is what is mandatory for every Muslim. And when the Muslims start talking about how there is, the different groups and so on and so forth, right? This is not a group. To be someone that follows the Salaf al-Salih or the early generations of Islam, this is not a group with an Amir, with a constitution. Once you see something like this, run away from it, right? This is bad. This is dividing the Muslims, basically. But what should unite the Muslims, right, is this understanding of this deen. Is what we all agree that they are the best people ever brought to mankind. And people of knowledge, they need to convey to the people this is the way, and to teach them this way. It's because the people might be difficult for them to get to know the understanding and so on. But the people, it's really, the problem is with those who are there to teach the people. They would lead them astray, or they would lead them to guidance, right? So this is the proper understanding of the deen of Islam. And this is what every Muslim should hold fast to, so that we will receive the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it's mentioned in the Quran and the way of the Prophet ﷺ, and the famous hadith. And this hadith is so famous and so clear, and it should be applied, not just to be said and that's it, but should be applied in our belief, aqidah, in our matters of ibadah, in all of our faith. فَإِنَّهُ مَا يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever lives among you, he will see many differences. See the clarity of it? Prophet ﷺ is telling the ummah that people will split, will be different. And he didn't leave them like that and didn't tell them what to do. But then he said, alayhi salatu wassalam, فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي, stay on my sunnah, right? Can you do that? Yes, we can. It's there. If you don't have the knowledge, ask the people of knowledge about the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And not only the sunnah, وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِينَ مِنْ بَعْدِ. This is deen, this is wahy. And the sunnah and the way of the rightly guided Khalifa after me. Wasn't it enough for the Prophet ﷺ to stay on my sunnah? But he said, وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِينَ مِنْ بَعْدِ. And the way of the rightly guided Khalifa after me, all of this, عَضُّوا عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِذِ, bite on it with your molar teeth. Is there anything more strong in statements than this? The thing that you would bite on your molar teeth means what? That some people are pulling it away from you. They're not leaving you alone, right? It's not ease. No, that you are being, this is something to be taken away from you. So you tried your hand, you tried everything, and the last thing is you just, with your molar teeth. You're not letting it go whatsoever, right? And then warning his ummah, alayhi salatu wassalam, وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ. And beware of the newly invented matters, which is against his way and the way of the rightly guided Khalifa. The deen that comes later, right? The deen that starts later, after the Khulafa al-Rashidin. And this is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how amazing is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The ummah split at the end of the rightly guided Khalifa. Right? See how amazing the matter is? this is where the beginning of the innovations and the bid'ah. We're not talking about matters of fiqh here and there. We're talking about bid'ah to deal with matters of belief that the ummah split into sects. Right? This was at the end of the time of the rightly guided Khalifa, as the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِيَّاكُمْ مُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ, beware of the newly invented matters, فَإِنَّ كُلَّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ. Every new invented matter, not in size and microphones and this and that, it's in matters of the deen. Matters of what's the subject of the deen? Aqidah, matters of belief, actions done by the heart, speech of the tongue, things that we do with the different parts of our bodies, right? So this is something that doesn't need to have something new because all of a sudden human beings discovered something else. No, it's the deen. So يَكُمْ مُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ كُلَّ مُحْدَثَةٍ بِدْعَةٍ. Every new invented matter is bid'ah, is innovation. Every innovation is in the hellfire. Stray, every stray is in the hellfire. Very clear statements, right? But we keep on saying these clear statements, and then